Yeah.
All right. So today's going to be real short. I'm not going to take a lot of your time today. And I'm going to let you out super early. It's going to be great. You're going to be loving life, especially if you still have some video scavenger hunt editing to do, which I suspect some of you might, because I got some panicked emails yesterday from people who were like, but something's wrong with my Premiere. And then I kind of said, figure it out. And then you all did. And that was amazing. Good for you. I'm proud of you. Congratulations. That's how you video edit, folks. Seriously, seriously, learn to teach yourself. I'm not being a jerk when I say that. Like, I'm not. It's not that I don't want to help you. It's that I actually care about you and I do want to help you. So when you send me an email and you're like, but it's not working, I'll usually say something to the effect of, okay, figure it out. Like, try to figure it out. Like, push some buttons, go online, Google it. Google's a great resource. Because, guys, the technology changes all the time. All the time. A year or two from now, the steps will be completely different. So it's not really practical for me to teach you the steps. It's more practical for me to teach you how to teach yourself, how to educate yourself, because that's the way it works when you're using software. You've got to learn how to learn software, because there's sort of a language for all of software, and you can only learn it by doing it. You can only learn it by practicing it and kind of figuring it out. So when in doubt, when you are in Adobe, when you are in doubt, you can always right click. Right clicking is always the answer. Okay, always the answer. Right click. And if you still can't figure it out, use Google, search around, search the specific error that you are getting. Okay, that will bring up some solutions. Okay. And always just kind of look at your diagnostics, like how much RAM do you have? What kind of a CPU do you have? Do you have a graphics card? What kind of video renderer did you choose in your preferences? Do you have media cache on a certain drive? Do you have space on that drive for your media cache? Those are all things that we talked about in our introduction lesson the other day, which I have uploaded in its entirety to my YouTube channel, my freestyle YouTube channel, not freestyle, but my email address, freestyle YouTube channel. So if you want to rewatch some of the lessons that we have had, they are all there in their entirety, in addition to some shorter versions of camera introduction and video and Premiere introduction and all that kind of stuff. I sent a bunch to you, Jamie. I don't know if you had a chance to watch any of those yet, but I sent several to you so that you can get caught up. We have a new guy. His name is Jamie. He likes to type while I'm talking. That's him, in case you're wondering. All right, so today's going to be real short. You should have, I told you to have prepared for today, your timeline all edited and ready to go. But I'm such a nice guy that even if you don't have your timeline all ready to go, I'm going to teach you what you need to do. And if you're not finished editing, you will actually have the rest of today to edit before you upload to my Google Drive folder. So you're welcome. You're welcome. I'm a nice guy. You are welcome. So there's still time for you to complete your assignment on time if you are a little behind. So what I'm going to need you to do right now is go ahead and open up your Premiere project, your video scavenger hunt that you've been working on. And today we're just going to talk about exporting. It's a very short lesson. We're just going to talk about it, how it works, what it means, all that kind of stuff. I will answer questions, and then you may go. And if you have any particular questions that you want to stick around for afterwards, we can talk about that. You can hang out if it would be a good time to talk to me about specific questions individually when I'm done. So I'm going to open up my Premiere so that you can follow along with me. All right, so here is my Premiere. I'm going to open up my scavenger hunt. I have a couple of them because I did it over again for the PM class. So I guess I'll start with the AM class. There we go. So I could open up my scavenger hunt. There's not really anything in there, as I recall. I'm not even sure if I actually saved it. We'll see if there's any clips in there. Oh, there are some clips in there, but they're not in my timeline. I will put them into my timeline. Boom. Now I've got some clips in my timeline. There they are. There's my niece being a superhero from many years ago. She's like almost your age now. Actually, no, she's not quite almost your age. What grade is she in? 7th grade, I think. Okay. All right. So I have my timeline. Pretend this is my video scavenger hunt. It's all edited and wonderful. I'll put in a few more clips just so it looks like a little more complete. And there it is. Oh, look, my video scavenger hunt is amazing. There's text on it. Every clip is labeled. I'm so proud of myself. Mr. Taylor's going to think I'm so smart and talented. He's probably going to tell me that I can win the Oscar. It's going to be amazing. I'm so pro. I am such a video expert. He's probably going to be really nice to me in all my future critiques. That's a lie. I am mean in my future critiques. Just heads up. All right. So we are going to teach you today how to export. If you've exported already, you did it wrong. Congratulations, you have failed test number 1. But if you have already exported, we're going to export again because I'm going to go through export settings with you. It's a little confusing if you don't know what you're doing. So we're going to go through it. We're going to go through it together. So first thing that we're going to do is here on my timeline. If you're a timeline editor, if you recall the editing lesson that we had last week, we talked about source monitor editing and we talked about timeline editing. And if you are a timeline editor, as I am prone to be, you might have a timeline that looks something like this. You might have like a finished movie, and then you might have like some random clips here at the end that you didn't use. Is that any of you? Raise your hand if that's any of you. I'm just curious. Anybody? Or did you like clean it out when you were done? Some of you, a little bit? Okay, just Chloe. So I'm just talking to Chloe. It's just you and me, Chloe. It's okay, I get you. All right, so when I edit on the timeline and then I take bits and pieces and kind of like make it together. And then I oftentimes have like leftover puzzle pieces over here that I don't want to use. I could delete them if I wanted to, but sometimes I might want to keep them there. Like maybe I want to make a change to my edit later on and I want to park those clips there so that I know where they are. So I'll do that often because sometimes I'll make different versions of the same export. Sometimes I'll make different versions of the same clip. Sometimes I'll make different versions of the movie that I'm making. Sometimes I'll go back and change something later. Maybe I'm just exporting a rough draft and I don't want to export, maybe this is my rough cut for class. So sometimes I'll have you export rough cuts. They're not the final versions of your film, but they're the rough versions of your film. And then I don't want to delete my extra pieces here because then I'll have to go find them again. That's a pain in the tail. So if you're like me, sometimes you'll have extra puzzle pieces here at the end and then you'll finish movie over here. That's fine. That's fine because we're going to export just this section right here. That's what we want to export. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set my ins and outs. Now you may recall how to do this because we talked about it in our editing lesson. We talked about it when we were talking about the source monitor over here, but you can also set ins and outs over here in the timeline. So you can do this by pressing the mark in button, right? And the mark out button. You can also just press the letter I or press the letter O. So I'm going to press the letter I at the beginning of my movie. I'm going to press the letter O at the end of my movie. Now, as a rule, I'm going to go to the end of my movie and I want like 4 seconds of like black at the end of my film. This is good. This is just kind of a good rule. When you're exporting something for my class or when you're exporting something for like a show, like a film festival or something like that. That way, because like if I have something else, like if I have like a playlist set up and I'm playing Jonah's and then afterwards is Nate and Jonah doesn't leave 4 seconds of black, like Jonah's credits will roll and then Nate's movie will begin like right after that. And everyone will think it's the same movie. And they won't realize that there's like a distinction between those two films. So as a general rule, I always like to put a few seconds of black at the end. This is also really good for YouTube if you're doing like a YouTube channel, because it gives you an opportunity to put up like your end cards, right? That have you like link, like what video to watch next, or like link to my website or that kind of stuff. So it's just kind of a good practice. In fact, YouTube, it might even be better to put like up to like 6 seconds of black. So I'm going to put like 4 seconds of black here. So let's see. This is I'm looking at my counter here and it says 2:10. So I'm just going to go to 2:14 and I'm going to press the letter O, and that's my outro there. That's my out seconds of black. At the beginning, I'm just going to put like a second or two of black. I don't need quite a whole bunch there. So I'm just going to do something like that. That looks good to me. And this is the section that I'm going to export. If I did not mark my ins and outs, it would export my entire timeline here, including this big, huge, giant gap right here that's like several minutes long of black, and then my little bits and pieces over here. And if you did that in my class, I would make fun of you. that would be a thing that I would do. I am not shy to make fun of you. So I want to make sure I set my ins and outs. Good practice, always good practice. So if you've got your timeline up right now, you can go ahead and follow along with me, set your ins and outs. If you don't have your timeline up right now because you're not prone to following directions, then I suppose you can mentally do so. And if you do have your timeline up right now, but you know that your video scavenger hunt is not completely edited, that's okay. Follow along anyway. You just won't do the very, very last step. I want to make sure that you're all comfortable exporting because you all are going to have to do this. And you're going to have to do it today if you want to turn in your video scavenger hunt on time. All right. So I've marked my ins and outs, and you'll know when it's marked, when it's highlighted like thus. And now I am ready to export. Now, this is kind of a sneaky thing that Premiere will do to you. Premiere likes to play a practical joke on you from time to time. When you go to export, make sure that you have clicked in the timeline. And by clicked in the timeline, I mean my timeline here. See how it's outlined in blue? It's got that blue outline. That means I'll be exporting this. If I click over here, or if I click in here, it's going to export the clip that I'm on, just the one clip. Or if I go up here, it'll export. Come on. Oh, there you go. If I go over here to the source monitor, it'll just export this one clip, which I do not want. I want to export my movie. So make sure you click here in the timelines, and you can see your little, you can move your slider and stuff, and then go to export so that you export your entire film and not just a clip that's like 3 seconds, because that would suck for you. So I'm going to go to export. I'm going to go to, okay, so I'm going to go to File, Export, and then I'm going to go to Media. There is a shortcut for it. It is Control M, in case anyone's curious, but I wanted to show you where it was. I think it's the same on a Mac. Is anyone following along on the Mac? Is it the same? Yeah, same? Same? Jonah gives me a thumbs up. Okay, cool. All right, so I'm going to go to Export Media. I'm going to select that, and this Export Settings box is going to come up. Okay, so here's where things get complicated. There is a whole bunch of options, and it's important that you understand to a basic level what these different options are and what they mean. So for starters, here's my source. Here is my output. And already I can see something weird is going on. I've got these weird black bars on the side. We'll get to that in a minute here when I change that. But down here, you can see the source range. And you can see by default, it is selected sequence in and out. I could choose the entire sequence. And now it's that huge blue area. And it'll include my big minutes of emptiness as well as my little bits and pieces. I don't want that. So I'm going to go to my sequence in out. Now it's just giving me the area that I selected. Awesome. That's exactly what I wanted. Cool. I could custom this too. Like if I wanted to, I could like make what I want to export here in this section. But it's a lot easier just to do the sequence ins and outs, in my opinion. So I got my sequence ins and outs. I am ready to export. That looks good. All right, now I need to figure out my settings. And if you look over here, the first one we start with is format. And holy cow, look at all those settings. There are so many different settings. And guess what? Each one of these settings has like 15 settings underneath that, right? So like if I choose that, there's all these sections. If I choose this, there's all these options. If I choose this, there's all these options. Each one of these has so many. There's an animated GIF. I can make an animated GIF. That only really has one option. But there are so many different options to choose from. Here's a QuickTime if I want to make a QuickTime movie. And holy cow, look at all these options. Oh my gosh, there's so many. What do I do? Which one is the right one? Well, that's a trick question. There isn't a right one. The right answer is dependent upon what it is you want and what you are exporting for. So for example, if I wanted to export this sucker in 4K with an HDR level that had all the right bit depth to preserve my color integrity, I would have to export in a setting like this. But if I'm exporting for YouTube, that's totally different. If I'm exporting for a film festival, I have to choose this one. Okay? If I'm exporting for, what if I just want the sound? If I just want to export the sound, I could just export the sound and no video at all. So I could do that. So there's many, many options. It just depends on what it is you want to do. So for this class, primarily, everything that we export is going to live on YouTube. And since you're uploading stuff from home, this is a good solution for us because it'll make it so it's not super, super big. So what I'm going to suggest is you want to choose the H.264 option. Okay, this is the codec. Codec is just kind of like the code, I guess. I don't know, the type of format that it's going to use to encode your video. I don't know how else to explain that. But we're going to use it's the algorithm, so to speak. So we're going to choose H.264, which is good because your cameras record in this codec. Your cameras record in H.264. So it's a very equal sort of level thing. Under preset, oh my goodness, look at all these different presets that we can choose from. Since everything we're going to upload, everything we're going to do is going to go on YouTube, I'm going to choose the YouTube preset because that's where it's going to live forever. So I'm going to choose YouTube, and this video was shot in 1080p, so I'm going to choose YouTube 1080p. If you shot something in 4K, you could choose YouTube 4K. I think only one or two of you have cameras that shoot in 4K. Most of you have my cameras, which only shoot in 1080p. So I'm going to choose 1080p. Okay. And now you'll notice that it fits in my source and output. They look the same, so that's cool. All right. And I'm going to make sure that my frame rate is the same. Right now it's grayed out because I have it set to match, which is what I want. I want it to match my sequence. So that's good. It's not going to change my frame rate because that would be bad. So that's good. Okay. Out over here where it says output name, I'm going to change the output name to my name, my freestyle name, and I'll call it Scavenger Hunt. Please use this naming convention for me. It'll make it really easy for me to know who you are and who turned what in and to give you a grade for it. So just use your freestyle name, which is your first name and your last initial, followed by a dash, followed by Scavenger Hunt. That would be fine. I know we have different naming conventions for different classes. Greco and Mr. Flo have been having you use your last name, underscore first name, underscore so on and so forth. I like this one. This one's nice for me. This is a good one for me. So that looks good. I am happy with that. And I'll say save. Make sure you know where you're saving it to. I'm saving it to my Film Online folder. So maybe I actually want to put it in my regular folder. And I'll say save. And here in the summary, it's going to tell me all kind of the information. So it's going to be 1920 by 1080 at a pixel ratio of 1. It's going to have a frame rate of 23.976 frames per second, which is the same as 24, that's good. That's what we want. It's going to be progressive, which is good. I don't want it to be interlaced. That would be bad. None of you are really using interlaced televisions or screens anymore. So there's never really a reason to not be progressive. We rather have that than have it interfaced. I have hardware encoding turned on. That's cool. And then it gives me these other things, which is like the bit rate as far as the quality of my video. So there's all these other settings in here. If you choose the YouTube 1080p preset, I don't really need you to change anything. This is all fine. This is all good. I don't want you to change any of that stuff. Now, this does not create the highest quality version of your file ever. This creates the highest quality YouTube version of your file ever. Because even if you exported the biggest, largest, most giant video file with the best, highest quality known to man, and then if you uploaded that to YouTube, YouTube would just do this. It would just revert to these settings. YouTube would encode it, and after a period of time when it was done encoding, it would create these exact settings, which is why Premiere has these exact settings already created. The nice thing about this is if you use the YouTube preset and you upload to like your YouTube channel or something, YouTube doesn't take any time to encode it because it recognizes it and says, oh, This is in my parameters. I don't need to re-encode this. It'll make versions for 720 and lower resolutions for 480. So if you're, when like your internet is horrible and you get like the less quality version of YouTube, you know what I'm talking about? Like that, those are the versions that YouTube will create, but the high quality version will be exactly the same, which is nice because then it doesn't have to re-encode. And then you don't have to wait for like an hour to actually share your video with people because YouTube won't have to re-encode it, which is nice. So this does not make the highest quality version of your file for like ever known to man. If you want the highest quality version of your file just to have, like to live on your computer or to put on your own server so you can watch it on your TV or something like that, you probably want to choose a different option. And if you are one of those people and you want to choose a different option for the highest quality version ever, I encourage you to go down the rabbit hole of the internet and Google Adobe export settings, because there's so many. It would be impossible for me to try to explain all of them to you and which one is best. And which one is best is really going to depend upon what you're trying to create and what you shot with. Did you shoot with a 1080p camera? Did you shoot with a 4K camera? Did you shoot with something that has higher color bit depth? Did you shoot RAW? Right? I have a camera that shoots RAW, and that's a totally different kind of export than my little DSLR that I'm using right now. So you just have to kind of know all those things. So I can't really tell you which one's the best forever because it just depends. What are you using it for? Do you plan to edit this file later? Because some files edit smoother than others, depending on a variety of factors and your computer. So if that's something that interests you, look into it, research it. You'll spend hours researching and you might still never come to any certain conclusion. And it will depend upon you and your unique circumstances. But for this class, everything that we're doing eventually lives on YouTube. So choose the H.264 option and the YouTube 1080p. Once in a while, once in a very, very, very blue moon, if you're extra, extra, extra special and I really like your film, that I might have you export something in a different format for me because I like it and I want a copy of it in a higher quality version for my Plex server at home. But that's a very rare circumstance. And that's only because I can tell the difference. You might not be able to tell the difference, but maybe by the end of 2 years, you'll be able to tell the difference. All right, so I've chosen 1080p. My frame rate is going to match the source, so I have left this box checked. That's good. That's what I want. If I had some sort of like massive number of special effects or something, then I might use maximum render quality. This is if I was like doing a lot of scaling and stuff, but none of my videos are scaled. They're all the same size as they were when I put them into the timeline. I didn't make them bigger or smaller or anything like that. So I don't really need to check that. But if you like zoomed in on a clip or something and cropped it, then that's a box that you might want to check. But everything else looks good to me. There's also render at maximum depth, which again has to do more with like color correction and effects and stuff like that. I didn't do any of that on my clip here, so I don't really need to check that box. But if you did, then you might want to check that box. If you were doing some color correction or if you were doing some special effects or something like that, then you might want to check that box. If you want to learn more about that stuff, I encourage you again to research it. And you will learn when it is appropriate for you as an individual to do that sort of thing. All right, so that looks good. So now I am ready to export. There are two options to export. I can choose export, and if I export, it will export my video. Now I have a short clip and my computer's really good, so it's only gonna take like 45 seconds for me to export this video. If your computer is slower than mine, it might take a while. It just depends on how big your movie is and how slow or fast your computer is and your hardware and all that kind of stuff. So I am doing this in Premiere. Now, when I export in Premiere, I can't do anything else in Premiere. Premiere is locked. So I have to wait. I have to wait forever. It's very sad. But I'll show you a different way to export here as soon as this is done counting from 99 to 100. Which Premiere really likes to over dramatize that last percentage. I don't know why. It just likes to make you wait for it. Usually what it's doing is it's actually compiling the clip. It's putting the audio and the video together. Okay, that's done. All right, so now I'm going to export again. So I hit Control M. On a Mac, it's Command M. And I'm ready to export my media again. Now this time, instead of hitting export, maybe I don't want to lock up my Premiere. Maybe I want to keep working. Maybe I want to start another edit in Premiere. I'll do this with your videos sometimes. I'll get like 2 or 3 of the class Zoom recordings, and I'll put them into my timeline, and I'll edit one, and then I'll set my ins and outs, and then I'll queue up an export, and I'll queue it so that I can keep working and work on the next lesson, and so on and so forth. So if I hit the queue button instead of export, it's going to send this information to Adobe Media Encoder, which you'll see here in a minute. It's coming up on my screen here. It's loading. So here's Adobe Media Encoder. And this is a piece of software that's just for exporting. That's all it does. It is for exporting and nothing else. Nothing else at all. So I have all the settings here. I could change it again if I wanted to. I could click on one of these and it would come up with like that little box again, and I could change some settings if I wanted to. But I already set my settings in Premiere. So I'm going to hit this little play button when I'm ready to export. And I can line these up. I can have like 10 of these, 20 of these. I can have a whole list of stuff that I want to export so that I can just let it export on its own and leave and let the computer work while I'm gone. So that's really nice if you have more than one thing to export. So I'm ready to export. I'm going to go ahead and hit the play button, and it's going to think about it, and I can actually see its progress down here, which is kind of cool. And if I want to go back to Premiere, I can go back to Premiere and I can keep working on other stuff while Media Encoder is doing its thing. That's kind of cool. I like that. I'm a fan of that. And it'll take about the same amount of time. I also have my renderer option here. I'm using CUDA because I've got a good graphics card in here, but you might have OpenCL or something else. All right, then it's going to count that last second because it likes to make things dramatic. And you won't be able to hear it because I didn't turn on my screen, my sound option for sharing, but it plays a lovely little noise when it finishes. It gets really excited. And when it finishes, it goes like, doo-doo-doo, but I don't think you'll be able to hear it unless I turn my speaker up. Yeah, you can't hear it. All right, so that's done. And now the last step of exporting, this is the last step. Never forget this step. This is a critical component of exporting. Go to your location. I'm going to click on this, and it'll take me to my location. And here is my scavenger hunt video. I also have the one that I exported previously that says Matt T-scavenger hunt. You always want to double check your export because maybe something went wrong. Maybe there was an error. Maybe you made a mistake. Maybe you exported the wrong thing. Maybe something got corrupted and there's like pixelated stuff and you need to re-export. Maybe you forgot to unmute an audio track. Maybe you forgot to hit the eyeball on a video track. Always give your export a watch before you turn it in or before you upload it to YouTube. Otherwise, you're going to feel like an idiot when you're the student who turns in their 2-minute video and there's 30 minutes. Yes, this has actually happened. 30 minutes of black at the end because you put one little clip at the end and forgot to set your ins and outs properly. And if we were in class and we were watching your scavenger hunt video and you had like 5 minutes of black at the end, we would sit there and we would watch all 5 minutes just to make an example of you because I'm a jerk like that. So make sure that you don't make sure that you check your work before you turn it in or before you upload it. Like it's a rookie move to not watch your export before you share it with the world because stuff can go wrong in the export once in a while. Usually it doesn't. Usually you'll notice something that you made a mistake on and you'll want to go back and fix it. So you'll get sick of watching your movie again and again and again, but you always got to watch it again after you export because you will find mistakes here and there that you may have made or that you need to change. So don't be a rookie. Make sure you check your work. And that, folks, is how you export. When you export your video scavenger hunt, it is due today. When you export it, you will export it. You have a finished MP4 file. That's what you should have when you're finished. I would like you to upload it to my Google Drive Dropbox, which I've not shared with you yet, but I will share with you at the end of today's lesson. You'll get an email and it'll be a folder. And in that folder, you will see other folders that appear. You can just bookmark that folder because that is your folder for the whole year. Well, for the whole time that we're in distance learning, which hopefully is not the whole year, but I'm getting nervous, guys. I really am. But you will there'll be a folder in there for video scavenger hunts, and you will put your video scavenger hunt. You will have to upload that into that folder. It is due today. We'll say by midnight. So if you have a slower internet connection, make sure you give yourself enough time to upload it. Hopefully your video scavenger hunt's not super long. And if you export it correctly, the file size won't be super large. So hopefully it won't take you a really, really, really long time to upload, but it might take an hour, it might take 2. And if you have a slower internet connection and a large video scavenger hunt, it might even take 4 or 5 hours. So make sure you budget a fair amount of time for you to upload that. And that, folks, is how you export. So let it be written. So let it be done. All right. Are there any questions? Okay. There is on my YouTube channel a short version of this lesson that's like 5 or 6 minutes long. So if you need help or a refresher course when you're ready to export and you already forgot everything that I taught you, this lesson will not be up on my YouTube channel in its entirety, at least not right away. But if you want the shortened version of that, it exists on my YouTube channel. It's in the tutorials playlist. It's the last Premiere lesson on exporting. I'll email it to you as well. It'll be on the slate when I update the slate later today as well. So all that stuff will be there for you to access as a resource. If there are no questions, look how ridiculously early I'm going to let you go today. I am letting you go early for your lunch. That's a whole 35 minutes. How cool is this guy? Super cool. I'm the best. Okay. This is a good opportunity for you to finish editing if you need to finish editing. Like I said, I will take your video scavenger hunts all the way up until midnight today. They're due today. They're not due this very minute. I haven't even shared the folder with you yet. So I'm going to share the folder with you and you'll get that email and then you can upload to that. If you have problems uploading to that folder, it's because you're not logged into your Freestyle Google account. You need to be logged into your Freestyle Google account, okay? Not everyone has access to the folder that I'm going to give you because I don't want the entire MVLA world or the public universe to be able to edit my folder with your work in it. I only want you guys to be able to edit the folder with your work in it, which means you need to be logged in to your Freestyle Google account in order to upload to that folder. Otherwise, you will get a message that says you need access. That's because you're logged into your MVLA account or your personal Gmail account or something like that. Okay, so I will share that with you. That'll due later today. When I see you next, it will be, what is today? Tuesday? When I see you next, it will be Thursday. And on Thursday, I don't know what we're doing yet. I haven't decided yet. I think we're going to get started on your first big project. I think it's launch day for experimental film, which means we'll use the whole period if that's the case. But I got to look at it and just double check if that's the case. It also means we might watch a really weird movie. Get excited, guys. Experimental films are strange, very strange. All right. I will see you later. If you got questions, you can stick around. Otherwise, be gone. Have an early lunch. Thanks for coming. Thanks for showing up to my TED Talk.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.